All right. Look at all you folks who came. So excited to have you. I see some familiar faces. Well, I see some familiar names, I guess, not just faces. 'Cause it looks like most folks have their camera off, which I would probably do too if I weren't introducing the program. So I see you. I see you folks with no camera. Um, you can also put questions in the chat if you'd like to. We will loop back around to those either at the end of presentation or at the end of the individual presentations or at the end of the overall presentation. I'm going to start at 12:03. It is a weird and arbitrary time, but it gives folks a minute to grab their lunch, sit down at their desk and log in. And that way we give our presenters enough time to share their work and you have some time to answer questions. But I am going to start introducing them because that will take a minute or two, maybe. I'm just really excited to welcome you to today's Lunch and Learn. We have three great organizations today who are talking about the work that they're doing to make this place that we live and that we work, which I think is one of the most beautiful places in the world, to keep it green, to keep it beautiful, to keep it sustainable, and to help us live in balance with the space that we're in. This presentation, the Environmental Month, is always one of my favorites because we get to learn more about these organizations like the folks that are here today, but we also get to learn more about how they interact with each other and form an ecosystem of environmental organizations, whether intentionally or unintentionally. The work that they do crosses so many paths. Right, like we need clean water, so do salmon. We need to work thoughtfully with our communities to address needs and empower them to shape their environmental futures, especially our immigrant communities and our refugee communities. And these three organizations are doing that work. They're really great. I'm going to stop talking and let them tell their stories, but I hope you'll join me in giving a warm digital welcome to the Environmental Coalition of South Seattle, Long Live the Kings, and the Puget Soundkeeper Alliance. So I'm going to give you a little hands, yay. And first up, we have the Environmental Coalition of South Seattle. Their mission is to promote environmental justice and sustainability in an effort to build immigrant and refugee communities that can shape their environmental futures. It's so important to be bought into where you live and to have a voice in the space that you live. And I am really excited to hear Teddy Wingo from ECOSS tell us more about what they're doing. Teddy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jolene, and thank you, Hannah, for hosting us today. As mentioned, my name is Teddy Wingo. I'm here on behalf of ECOSS. Give me just a moment to share my screen and we can get started. All right. I'm seeing that my screen is shared. Can I get a thumbs up from someone that we can see it? Awesome. Great. So as mentioned before, again, Environmental Coalition of South Seattle, better known as ECOSS these days. We're located in the Georgetown area of Seattle, been in that area for the last couple of years. Prior to that, our offices were located on Harbor Island in between Seattle and West Seattle. But before I dive into ECOSS, I think it's always nice to kind of learn a little bit about the individual who's presenting. So I'll just share a little bit about myself first. As mentioned, Teddy Wingo, Development Director at ECOSS. I use he, him pronouns. I've worked in the Washington environmental sector for the last 10 years. My work has been with environmentally based organizations such as Washington Trails Association and Columbia Land Trust, but as well as community-based organizations, Friends of Youth, and Pacific Lutheran University. Over the last 10 years, I've spent 7 as member of development teams, and I've been with ECOSS for the last 18 months. And I really, truly love ECOSS and having the opportunity to work for this organization. I think it does such a wonderful job of pairing both community and environment, and doing so in a way that uplifts immigrant and refugee communities, communities that really need our support more than ever these days. We're a pretty small organization overall. There's 15 full-time staff and 11 board members. We celebrated 30 years as an organization last year. In the bottom left, you can see a number of us at the conclusion of our 30th anniversary event. And then you can also see me in the bottom right presenting at the fundraiser itself. So ECOSS mission and our vision. ECOSS is devoted to promoting environmental justice and sustainability in an effort to build immigrant and refugee communities that can shape their environmental futures. We envision rooted and thriving communities that live, work, play, and learn in a healthy environment, regardless of identity, socioeconomic class, culture, and immigrant or refugee status. In the bottom left, you can see a number of our program staff hosting a clean energy table at White Center Pride last year. And at the bottom right, they're hosting a solid waste management table at Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands also last year. So diving into our programs and their impacts on community. ECOSS has 4 core program areas: clean water, which makes up 51% of our programming; clean energy, which makes up 19% of our programming; solid waste management, which makes up 18%; and environmental stewardship, which makes up 12%. We work at a plot in Seward Park to do some environmental stewardship work on an annual basis. And last year we hosted an event during Latino Conservation Week, and we had a great turnout of folks coming to do some stewardship in that area. You can see a little collage of folks who were in attendance last year there in the bottom left-hand corner. So a little bit more detail about the programs and their impact, starting off with clean water and just some information about how this makes impact on community. Stormwater pollution affects the health of our communities and wildlife in the Duwamish Valley. And we create mitigation strategies such as rain gardens, cisterns, bioswales, and more to help heal our waterways. A lot of this work is done in partnership with Seattle Public Utilities, as well as King County Flood Control District. We work not only with private business owners, but also private landowners to build these types of mitigation strategies, such as rain gardens and cisterns on the properties. Clean energy. The 2 largest sources of carbon emissions in Seattle are transportation and buildings. These emissions have been proven to decrease Seattle's air quality and intensify heat waves and more. I think many of us who have traveled in and out of Seattle via the airport in recent months and years have seen the amount of construction that's happening, and that's not only to improve the aesthetics of the airport, but Seattle's airport is growing, adding a number of more gates. One of the programs that we're working on right now as the airport expands is working with the Port of Seattle for their project called SAMP, the Sustainable Airport Management Plan. And what we're doing for them is we're creating focus groups and also hosting education sessions with people who live in and around the airport to inform them about the things that are going to be coming towards their communities, not only the air quality and how it could change, but also the sounds that will be coming in at greater hours. And so we're taking that information that we're learning from the port, sharing it with community, but then also learning from community how they have concerns and what they are thinking about as the airport grows, and bringing that back to the port so that they can be informed as they continue to work through this project and know how they can adjust their strategies to make sure they're taking community concerns into account while they're doing this work. Solid waste management programming connects community to resources about composting, waste prevention, and how to properly sort and dispose of waste. In the bottom left-hand corner there, you can see one of our staff members showing off a worm bucket and how folks can have those in their own homes to do their own composting or on their properties. This table was hosted at our 30th anniversary event amongst our other program tables. ECOSS environmental stewardship programs connect immigrant and refugee communities with opportunities to learn about and restore forested parklands in the greater Seattle area. And this is a photo of some youth doing some stewardship work at a site we steward in Longfellow Creek area. Digging a little bit deeper, community is at the heart of all of our work. We really work hard to empower community leaders through programs that build leadership skills with opportunities to share back to their communities. We provide technical assistance and environmental education. This style of programming works directly with communities and businesses to share environmental knowledge and strategies. We work to reduce environmental disparities and hope that we can build a sense of place for folks who are making Seattle and the surrounding area their home. This programming builds connections with local green spaces and waterways through habitat restoration in public spaces, and also stormwater installations like I highlighted earlier. And most importantly, we want to amplify community voices, and we do so through interviews or tailored focus groups that inform future programming, kind of like what I shared we're doing with the port and their sustainable airport management plan. So how we work, what makes ECOSS unique? I think really it's our ability to connect and identify needs and gaps. We connect with communities through outreach, events, tabling, and we do so in the native languages of the community members. All of our program staff live in and come from the communities that we're working with. So they're able to really establish that sense of trust through connection because they're working alongside their neighbors, their friends, their family members, people who come from the same communities that they came from and now who are making Seattle their home the same way that they've made Seattle their home. And we work to provide tools, knowledge, experience, and that help communities to thrive. Last year, ECOSS served 2,327 community members and over 190 local businesses. And we did so in language, as I mentioned. The languages spoken on staff are Spanish, Vietnamese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Amharic, and Ormoro. Those last two are East African languages if you're not familiar with them. ECOSS resources and how you can stay up to date on our events, news, and more. So our website is www.ecoss.org. You can find links to our news page, our events calendar, and ways to donate on the website. Unfortunately, as it's been the case with many nonprofits, especially environmental justice and other forms across the country, ECOSS was not immune to the federal funding cuts and freezes. We lost about 12% of our annual operating budget, not only this year, but it will be for years to come. We had two pretty substantial grants that were going to help us lead urban forestry projects in Beacon Hill and South Park neighborhood this year. And the following 2 years, both of those were fully cut. So those programs are indefinitely suspended, unfortunately. And this is really hard to take for us, not only as an organization, but it has direct risk and impact to the community right now. As folks know, urban forestry is huge, not only to the health and safety of residents, but also to the health and safety of other plant life and wildlife in this area. And so not being able to move forward with those projects is something that we're trying to figure out how we can create funding or find other avenues for funding so that we can move forward with the work that we promised the residents of that neighborhood, of those neighborhoods. And additionally, you can stay up to date with ECOSS by visiting our Instagram, ecos_org. We promote weekly our upcoming events and volunteer opportunities, ways to get involved, and other just projects that we're working with. But we don't only promote our own, we also like to uplift other organizations that we're working alongside in the environmental justice space. So if you're not able to make an ECOSS event, we love to share other organizations' events as well, so that you can get out and volunteer your time doing similar work with organizations who are working alongside us in the fight for environmental justice in our community. And that's it. Just a little last bit. If you want to ask me a question offline, I know we'll have time for questions now, but I'm happy to connect with you over email. My email is twinkle@ecos.org. And again, I just want to say thank you to Jolyn and Hannah and all the folks at UW for hosting us today. It's been a really great honor to be able to share a little bit about ECOSS to you all. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have for me now. And I'll see if I can stop sharing my screen. There we go.
I was talking with mute on. Thank you so much. That was such great. Actually, it was very interesting. I'm going to say the end information didn't feel that great. So hearing it felt bad. I can't imagine how it feels for you as an organization. Does anyone have any questions for Teddy? I'll give you a minute. You can unmute or you can drop your question in the chat. All right. Do you work with local environmental health advocates and CTACs, such as the Defenders of the Highline Forest?
We do not work directly with the defenders of the Highline Forest, but I think that is an organization that I think, from what I know of them, would align really closely with the work that we're doing and could be a great opportunity for partnership in some of our work upcoming. So, yeah, I'd love to share this information with our program staff and maybe they can do some outreach and there can be a potential partnership there. But currently, we do not work with that organization.
Great, Tukwila. Yeah, that's awesome. So Anna, one of my colleagues, is a Tukwila resident, so this is extra exciting. If other nonprofits are interested in partnering with ECOSS, should they contact you or someone else? I'd like to refer one in the Rainier Beach area that I would love to share.
Yes,
Uh,
you can connect directly with me, and I had my email on the slide deck, but I'll drop it here in the chat right now. So please feel free to send me an email at any time, and I'm happy to connect with you and other community members. We'd love to do some work alongside you.
Excellent. That's awesome, Teddy. Thank you so much. And I'm going to speak out of turn for all of these organizations, but if you are interested in having them come to a staff meeting and talk about their work, or you have somebody in your department or unit, and this is a particular interest area of them, please reach out to these folks. Like all of us, they are struggling with budget cuts and many other things. And so having the opportunity to continue to share the work that they're doing beyond today will have a tremendous impact. So I want to totally shout these folks out and let you know that if you want to go through the CFD to contact them, you absolutely can, but I'm sure everyone will drop their email in the chat and we'll be happy to let you contact them directly. So do we have any other questions for Teddy? All right. Well, thank you so much, Teddy. Next up, we're going to hear from Long Live the
Thank you.
Kings. So I had not heard of them, and it took me a minute to track on what they were. Of course, king salmon, duh. So really excited to have them here. Long Live the Kings is committed to restoring wild salmon and steelhead and support sustainable fishing in the Pacific Northwest. Somebody who grew up here with friends who were commercial fishermen and salmon fishermen and grew up in a creek where salmon came to spawn. This organization feels very near and dear to my heart. And I am pleased to welcome Trevor Laugen and Shara Ainsley from their staff to tell us about their work. So welcome, Shara and Trevor.
I'll lead them off. So my name's Trevor. I'm the grants manager over here at Long Live the Kings. As Sterling very kindly mentioned, our mission is to restore wild salmon and steelhead and support sustainable fishing here in the Pacific Northwest. We're very active in Puget Sound. That's where most of our work takes place. We've worked here since about 1986 and really grown a lot since our founding. You know, our kind of start focused on developing a new generation of hatchery techniques to kind of reduce impacts on wild populations. And since then, we've grown to kind of become probably one of our region's biggest salmon recovery leaders. We were really big and worked really closely with the University of Washington as part of the Salish Sea Marine Survival Project, which brought together, hundreds of folks from across Canada and here in the US to identify what was causing really high rates of juvenile salmon mortality in the Salish Sea. That work kind of generated a paradigm shift here in how we approach salmon recovery. It influenced hundreds of millions of dollars in salmon recovery funding here in Puget Sound from the governor's salmon recovery workforce over there. I think we've definitely established a presence here. You folks might have seen us also really featured in Survive the Sound. We hear that a lot. Survive the Sound, you'll see it on the news. It happens every spring. It allows students and the public to track a real live steelhead as it migrates through Puget Sound on its way to the Pacific. People get daily updates on where their fish is at. They get a chance to learn about, some of the challenges facing steelhead. Not all of them survive, which is a harsh lesson for students, but it's got a free educational curriculum and it's really impactful. We have tens of thousands of people participating every year. So that's something you might have seen personally or seen in your child's classroom. But yes, we're very happy to be here and to kind of share more about our work. I think salmon recovery is something we can all care about. It impacts all of our lives, whether it's the health of ecosystems. There's over, 138 species locally that really depend on salmon. There's thousands of people employed in fishing or ecotourism, and those jobs really depend on strong salmon populations. And then, the treaty rights and traditions of tribal nations here regionally, all are very much grounded in healthy salmon population. So it's something we should all care about. And with that being said, I will pass this off to Shara, who's going to kind of give a deep dive into one of our really big projects happening locally that has a lot of impact that I think you folks would be interested to hear more about.
Hi, hopefully you can all hear me. My name is Shara Ainsley, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Associate Director of Projects here at Long Live the Kings. And one of the big projects that I work on is the Hood Canal Bridge Assessment. And it's been an ongoing project that Long Live the Kings has helped to facilitate over the past decade. And so today I'll just talk briefly about Steelhead, Hood Canal, and the floating bridge, how we identified the problem and the solutions that we've been testing, and then kind of a long-term look at the bridge. And this will just give you a taste of the kind of work that Long Live the Kings does. So first off, I want to introduce our state fish, the steelhead. And I personally think steelhead are really amazing. They can be either rainbow trout or steelhead. It's the same species, and rainbow trout stay in the rivers their whole life. Steelhead go out to the ocean and come back to spawn. And what determines whether an individual fish becomes a rainbow trout or a steelhead is still very much an active area of research. And so they're just very cool species of fish. And as Trevor noted, we've been working to try to recover steelhead. There are 3 species of ESA, or Endangered Species Act, listed salmonids here in the Hood Canal region. And that includes Chinook, summer chum, and steelhead. And so the Hood Canal has 8 different rivers that produce steelhead, and these steelhead need to pass by the Hood Canal Bridge, which I'll talk a bit more about. And in the Hood Canal region, there's also culturally and legally significant harvest areas for 4 tribes in the region. And so the impacts of the bridge on the Chinook and chum have serious implications for satisfying tribal treaty fishing rights, which is why our partnership with the Port Campbell tribe and the Skokomish tribe on this project is so important. So a little bit about the Hood Canal. Today, we're talking about a region that's to the west of us. It's between the Kitsap and Olympic Peninsulas. And if you've ever driven out to the Olympic Peninsula or driven to Port Angeles or Port Townsend, you've probably crossed over the Hood Canal Bridge. And despite its name, the Hood Canal is actually a 60-mile long fjord. It's kind of a reverse J shape. And it's at its deepest point, as deep as the Space Needle is tall. So it's quite a deep fjord. And that led to some challenges with engineering. You can't necessarily put in, pylons for a bridge if it's hundreds of feet deep. And so they ended up in the late 50s and early 60s developing a floating bridge. So you all are probably familiar with the floating bridges that cross Lake Washington. It's a similar style floating bridge that crosses the Hood Canal. And the difference here is that it's also a drawbridge. So for vessels to go back and forth, the bridge has to open up and stop traffic. And it floats at the mouth over here of the Hood Canal. And so while it looks like it's built on solid concrete, and it feels like that when you're driving across it, it's actually floating on hollow concrete pontoons filled with air, kind of like giant concrete balloons. And these pontoons are connected to each other and span about 83% of the width of the canal. So there's little gaps in the pontoons on either side close to the shore, but otherwise it's a solid concrete wall essentially underwater for the top 15 feet. And so researchers at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which I'll refer to as NOAA, they began investigating the overall low survival of steelhead in the Puget Sound. As Trevor noted, this was an effort that was involved a lot of different researchers from throughout the region, including UW. Looking at steelhead survival. And between 2006 and 2010, as they were tracking young steelhead out of the canal, they noticed they were losing a lot of steelhead at the Hood Canal Bridge, but they didn't understand why. And so in 2015, local, state, federal, and tribal partners came together and nonprofits, and we convened to develop a plan to better understand the causes of the loss of young steelhead at the bridge. And this has just been a great partnership that's built over the last 10 years. It's just further developed and deepened. So there was a technical assessment team that along with the Kings pulled together, and they created a plan for understanding the problem at the bridge, and some UW researchers provided an independent review of that plan. And they looked at all kind of the likely suspects. So whether, they did a study on the artificial light at night, noise from traffic, changes to currents and temperature, whether it's just the physical obstruction of the bridge, and then predators. And at this problem identification stage, NOAA researcher Megan Moore repeated her tracking study and did a more intensive look at the bridge. And they found, shockingly, up to 50% of the young steelhead that made it to the bridge did not make it past. So we are losing a lot of young steelhead near the bridge. And likely salmon, Chinook salmon, and chum salmon as well, they're just too small when they migrate out to tag. Steelhead, when they're migrating out, they're a year old already. We can put a tag in them. The chum and salmon, chum and Chinook are just too tiny. So at this stage, we identified the problem. And based on all this research, the bridge is really acting as a barrier to young steelhead. They're migrating out just at the surface water. And so when they encounter the bridge, it's like a dam to them. It's a big concrete structure. And the confused fish are wandering around looking for a way around the bridge. And there are those gaps near shore. But while they're wandering around, abundant harbor seals are taking advantage of these confused fish and picking them off at the bridge. And then lights on the bridge at night are giving seals an advantage so they can hunt 24 hours a day. So this is just an example of a track that you can see of steelhead going back and forth. This is like a GPS, almost like a GPS on a steelhead. And you can see it's going back and forth trying to find that way around the bridge. And this is depicting the end of the bridge. On either end, right before they kind of hit that opening with the safe passage, there's unfortunately a big cross pontoon that creates a corner and an eddy, which is kind of like an underwater whirlpool. And that eddy confuses and disorients fish, and it gives a spot for harbor seals to corral the fish and catch them easily. So our current phase of the project, we have two main goals. We are working with this big team collectively to find ways to significantly increase steelhead survival past the bridge, and then look for ways to understand whether in long term we could redesign the bridge to eliminate the impacts on steelhead and salmon, and also potentially better serve people in the region. So in terms of those near-term solutions, we're looking to both move fish past the bridge more quickly and safely, and also reduce presence of seals near the bridge, because that's kind of the two main issues that the bridge is posing. So to guide fish more safely around the bridge, we have worked with a team of engineers to develop a fish guidance structure, and that eliminates that eddy there in the corner and guides fish around to safety, and limits the ability of the seals to corral fish. And so this is what it looks like. It's a really big structure. So here you can see in the photo on the left, in the top corner, there's like someone in orange standing next to it. It gives you a sense of scale. And then here is myself and some colleagues standing next to it when it's out of water. So out of water, it weighs the equivalent to about 6 orca whales. It is a huge structure. It's 60 by 60 by 80 feet of large plastic pipes and tubing. And in this picture, you can see a tugboat pushing it into place. And so this guidance structure, I should say that this guidance structure would attach to the bridge seasonally to help fish move around. The other aspect is we're testing an acoustic startle device. And this is working with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and Oceans Initiative, which is another nonprofit, and the Port Campbell-Scollum tribe. And this is a really cool device. It is not just a loud, annoying sound for seals, but it has been, they have looked at the biology of seals and understood what kind of sound would trigger the flight or fight reflex in the brain of seals, and trigger that startle. And so this device produces that exact sound at a random rate, and that scares seals away from the bridge. And so we've been testing in the spring of 2023 and 2024, both of these systems to see if we can employ them. And we are now working up the results of those tests. And here you can see the Port Gamble-Scullin tribe folks, and they have a sonar camera that they're using to look at the seal's response to the device. So very preliminarily, we have not been able to fully analyze the guidance structure and the survival around the guidance structure for 2023 because of low sample sizes. But fish tracks, we still see a delay at the bridge, and we do see that that eddy is really reduced. So there's still kind of to be determined how well that guidance structure is guiding fish. But with the Startle device, we saw that there's been a 60% reduction of occurrence of seals in that corner area when we have the device pinging. And of the seals who still remain, they spend a lot less time in the area. So the Startle device, at least, is showing really promising results at keeping seals kind of at bay and allowing safe passage. So lastly, the assessment team has concluded that we can only do so much to mitigate the bridge impact with things like guidance structures and Startle devices. And so long-term, their recommendation is to consider a new design for the bridge. And every bridge has a lifespan. Unfortunately, the Hood Canal Bridge has already, half of it is already sunk in the 1970s, and they had to rebuild it. So we want to be prepared in case something happens or if the bridge hits its end of life and it needs to be rebuilt, that we have a design that's both fish friendly and could benefit people and communities. And in particular, because it's a draw span, it has to stop traffic every time a vessel passes through. So that causes a lot of disruption for emergency responders, for the commuters, tourists. And also, the Navy has a very important nuclear submarine base in Hood Canal. Anytime those submarines go out to the ocean, the bridge has to open. So there's a lot of impacts that the bridge has and a lot of potential. And as we look at alternatives, we can look across the world to Europe. The engineering constraints posed by the Hood Canal Fjord are very similar to those found in Norway. Norway has lots of fjords, Norway has salmon, so they have similar challenges. And this is an example of a bridge that is under construction or soon to be under construction in Norway, where the pontoons you can see in this picture are horizontal, or they're at a cross to the roadway, and so there's actually water can flow in between each pontoon, and so you don't have as much impacts on fish and water flows and such. And then there's also a raised portion, so ships can go under the bridge instead of the bridge needing to open. So looking to other potential examples for bridges. So just to end, this effort is one of the largest fish passage barrier, addressing one of the largest fish passage barriers in the Pacific Northwest. And we've really worked collaboratively. Long Live the Kings has brought a lot of folks together to work collaboratively on identifying problems and solutions. And this effort has a really good track record of securing funding for the last 10 years. Just as ECOSS noted, we are potentially going to be impacted by the changes with federal funding. In particular, moving forward for the next couple of years, our funding is federal, and so we are all just hoping we have smooth sailing with that, but we shall see. And it's been a great coalition of partners that we've maintained and grown over the past 10 years. And just a note that if you do play Survive the Sound, these data of tracking fish for this project were used to develop Survive the Sound. So if you should choose a fish from the Skokomish River, you are using data from this project, which is great. For example, I don't know if chowder is in the race this year, but in the past, chowder has been from the Skok. And you may or may not survive past the bridge. Now you know the percentage of fish that are lost there. You may not want to choose a Skokomish fish, but the race starts soon, so sign up. We encourage you. And then I will just end by noting that we have other wonderful projects we're working on to try to address structural challenges or other things. So the Lake Washington Ship Canal, which goes right past UW, is a challenge for salmon to navigate with warm water temperatures. And so we have a project working on that. We are working on a salmon and climate initiative, developing a West Coast wide initiative to address salmon resiliency in the face of climate change. And then in the same area that ECOSS is based on Harbor Island, in the Duwamish River estuary, we are working on an urban estuary restoration project with the shipbuilding company Vigor. And that is a partnership with UW's Wetlands Ecosystem team. So we partner with the University of Washington on that one. And that's a project that I lead as well. So I will turn it back over to Trevor for the last slide. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks so much, Shara. So just wanted to share that there's lots of opportunities to get involved. You know, our work depends on private funding. And so far, despite some of these federal cuts, we've been able to step up in a lot of areas. You know, we've been supporting our federal partners with research down in Hood Canal, where it's actually very cute. They strap little tag helmets onto seals to track where they go around. It's like they're wearing little hats. It's absolutely precious. But we've been helping provide complementary funding for ongoing seal research to determine its impacts on, you know, steelhead and other salmon predation. We've been helping with survey sampling from the state that's been cutting down. You know, as a private organization, we've really been able to step up and make sure a lot of the salmon recovery work keeps moving forward, and we depend on private support for that type of work. So of course, support us through the UW Combined Fund Drive, find opportunities to volunteer or come out with us and do some habitat restoration. There's lots of fun stuff. And as Shara mentioned, sign up for Survive the Sound. There's already 1 or 2 University of Washington teams you can sign up for and pick a fun fish, including our very fun husky fish that's pictured here, and participate in the race. So thank you so much for having us.
And if there's time, we're happy to answer questions.
Yeah, y'all, there is definitely time. Does anyone, okay, I did not know about Survive the Sound, and so I totally need to play, so thank you for sharing that. And B, does anybody have any questions for the folks at Long Live the Kings? You can drop them in chat. You can say that you can take yourself off mute if you want to.
And as we're waiting, I just want to note that Danny, her picture and information is up here. Trevor's kindly filling in for Danny, who was under the weather today. So that's why Danny's up here instead of Trevor.
Y'all, this is a great question. Is it true that the top 2 contaminants in Seattle water that affect salmon are coffee and Prozac?
That is a very good question. I cannot answer that question with my knowledge of salmon contaminants, but I can definitely I can bring in our folks who are working on other contaminants like 6-PPDQ. I have heard that I know that there is in fact a lot of detectable pharmaceuticals in the waterway. And that can impact fish. But I don't know if those are the top 2. But yeah, you can also, I mean, detect things like, I've heard you can detect a spike in vanilla in the waterway after holidays because of all the baked goods. I mean, it's amazing what you can detect in the water. So
that's crazy. I believe coffee could be one of them. Okay, wondering how long the bridge corner took to make and how much it cost. If you know
that is a
that.
very good question. Yeah, so the first fish guidance structure costed a bit more because of kind of working out the details, engineering details. I want to say that guidance structure cost about $1.4 million to make. It was funded through the state. It's a state-owned bridge that we're addressing, and that phase of the project was funded through the state. The second one that we built for the other end of the bridge a year later cost a little bit less because of that. Like, you know, we'd already kind of worked out the kinks of some of the engineering.
Okay.
And that includes moving it back and forth. So it is a very large, heavy structure, and it actually lives in Seattle and gets pushed by tugboat out to Hood Canal Bridge when needed. And so part of that cost is just moving it back and forth and physically craning it into the water and things like that.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. I'm going to ask a couple of bridge questions. So can you tell us a little bit about why it's moved seasonally and not left in place? And do you work with the folks at Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group?
Yeah. So it is seasonal for a couple reasons. The first is that it's a temporary structure. It's literally just hitched to the bridge like you would tie up a vessel to a dock. And so leaving it over the winter could be problematic because it could just get a lot of wave action, and we don't want it, it's basically tied like it's tied to a dock. So it's safer to take it out of the water. WashDOT is very particular about what gets attached to the bridge, which is very understandable. It's a floating bridge, and so you don't want anything to damage the bridge. Part of the reason it's built out of plastic and not something a little bit more resilient is so that if something happened and it broke free, it would break apart before it damaged the bridge, right? And so we were just trying to make sure that the bridge is, very safe and secure. And so it's a little bit of a game of trying to make something that's resilient, but also not too resilient. And then also seasonally, the salmon only migrate out, the young salmon only migrate out in the spring. So it's really only needed from like, say, February, March through June.
Okay, I'm going to ask, you guys have some great questions here, but I'm going to just ask one more question, hoping that you can answer it medium quick so we can move on to the fabulous folks at Puget Soundkeeper Alliance. Wondering about why there's such a high level of pharmaceuticals, and do you guys do or analyze those testings for the group? I'm also going to ask, we had somebody who is a UW undergrad who wants to do some volunteering, internshipping, etc., which is awesome. Claudia, I'm going to ask Trevor and Shara to drop their contact info in the chat, and you can reach out to them directly. But in the meantime, tell us about drugs in the water.
Well, I will quickly say that I forgot to mention that we do partner with the Salmon Enhancement Group. They're a wonderful group. We are friends with them, partners with them, and so just forgot to mention that. And then pharmaceuticals in the water, it's really that is something that I don't think we've had any specific projects on. We are working on a project where we are testing a unit that uses compost to try to remove and eliminate 6-PPDQ, which is a tire dust chemical that's really problematic for coho salmon. And so we're testing how well that can eliminate from stormwater that's coming off of roads that have a lot of tire action on them. But, I don't think we have any pharmaceutical projects. And so I don't want to speak to something that I'm not an expert on.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to applaud you even though you can't see me. This was fascinating. As I said, the environmental lunch and learn is truly one of my favorites. I always learn so much. You guys do amazing work. Last but certainly not least is Puget Soundkeeper Alliance, which I think you're talking about water and water quality and salmon habitats. Just leads really nicely and naturally into their work. Their mission is to protect and enhance the waters of Puget Sound for the health and restoration of our aquatic ecosystems and the communities that depend on them, i.e. all of us who live on this planet depend on water. So please join me in welcoming Stephanie Leone.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see that? Thumbs up if
yes,
you
we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Awesome. So, yes. Hello, everyone. My name's Stephanie. Actually, let me get to this next slide here, which hopefully is not working. Cool. There we go. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name's Stephanie Leon. I'm the Corporate Engagement and Membership Manager at Puget Soundkeeper. I work in fundraising. I feel like my title always kind of, it's a lot of things. But for the most part, I do work in fundraising. I work with a lot of our local businesses and corporate partners, but I also work with our huge membership program. This is my email here below. I'll definitely share this later as well after we get into this. But yeah, it's great to be here. And actually, we have some exciting news. We actually just changed our mission statement this last year. And so I'm still learning it myself. I'm still very much used to the protect and enhance. So I wanted to share a new mission with you all. this is very exclusive content. I feel like we haven't shared this out too publicly yet, but I did get the go ahead to do it. So yeah, our mission is to be a trusted leader and collaborator for all communities in court and on the water, fighting for a healthy Puget Sound. Our vision also changed. Our vision is a Puget Sound where clean water sustains vibrant ecosystems and fosters equitable, thriving communities. We seek a sound that supports the lifeways and traditional cultural practices of Indigenous peoples, provides all communities with a clean, healthy place to live and work, and once again is home to an abundance of salmon and orca. And something my boss always says is that we are all water keepers. We all have to work together to really make this happen for all of us. And yeah, we call ourselves the Sound Keeper, but really it's all of us. So just a little note. Yeah, so a little bit of how we kind of make this happen. We support our mission is we do a lot of stewardship work. We're very well known for doing like tons of cleanups throughout the year. We do kayak patrols every other week. We do boat patrols as well. We're on the water quite a bit, monitoring and patrolling. And then, yes, of course, cleaning up debris, finding where we need to do the next cleanup. A lot of our community members, people in the community, reach out to us, let us know, hey, this beach isn't looking great, or this park isn't looking great. We're finding like blockages and stormwater drains, etc. So we're able to go and assess that. And then we also do a ton of community science work. So we do things like salmon surveys every year, which is kind of like Long Live the Kings were saying. 6-PPD, we're understanding it's a very, very toxic chemical to our coho. It's actually the #1 lethal chemical to them. So we go out there every fall and study the salmon. Are finding that many of them are obviously passing before they're able to spawn, which is called pre-spawn mortality. So that's a big part of our community science work. We also do a lot of water quality monitoring. So I guess I can speak to a little bit. We haven't really studied much of the pharmaceutical stuff in the water, but it's mostly because it's just like a cost thing, right? Unfortunately, we wish we had millions to just really focus on that. But right now we are doing a lot more of like 6-PPD and of course a lot of stormwater pollution and debris. So that's kind of what our big wheelhouse is at the moment. But yeah, so I just want to talk about a few impacts that were made through our work last year in 2024. We were able to engage with over 2,100 volunteers, which is amazing. We have just such a great community here who came out and helped us with so many different cleanups. So yeah, we had over 60 cleanups. We obviously went out and did a lot of outreach and education as well, but that's a whole other tally. And then through these cleanups, we were able to collect over 17,000 plus pounds of marine debris from Puget Sound waterways. A big majority of that actually did come out of the Duwamish. We were working on a salt and legacy tire and debris project last year where we took out tons of boats, kayaks, and removed hundreds and hundreds of tires from the Duwamish. So that was a very wonderful cleanup that we were able to participate in and happy to be part of. And then we were through our legal program, something that's a big part of our work as well is our law and policy program. We are luckily very supported by the Clean Water Act. So we are able to file lawsuits against major polluters in the area throughout the Puget Sound, which is our jurisdiction. And the best part about being nonprofit is, of course, when we win these cases, that money goes right back into our partners at the Rose Foundation, and then that is distributed to different clean water projects throughout the area. So we were able to, through our cases, we had $1.7 million in legal winnings that were able to go right back to the Sound, which we're very, very excited about. And then, of course, through our policy work, we spent a lot of time in Olympia. We are very tenacious out there this year, of course, and last year. So yeah, and I had a video, but I don't think the sound's gonna work, so we're gonna skip that. I don't know. Actually, I might not play it because I can't see my screen. I can't see your guys' comments for some reason. Okay, there we go. So we'll just skip that. But I basically told you a little bit about what we do, which is what that video was. Yeah, I just want to share some fun slides about some of our stewardship activities here. Obviously, we have amazing volunteers. This little center picture here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is kind of an example of the salt salmon legacy tire debris project we did. We picked out tons of tires, nets, fishing line, everything. But yeah, tires were definitely very much on the top list of things that were collected. Yeah, we have a great community of volunteers. Here is our little trash retreat cleanup. You guys should all come out too if you're looking for some fun stuff to do in October. This was a lot of fun. Everyone dressed up and we did a big raffle and it was a great time. And then a little bit of a slide on our community science. There we go. So yeah, this is kind of, this is our Lost Ribbon Creeks program. We have an amazing program with our South King County youth, and we actually teach them how to do water quality monitoring. They are amazing. They are paid interns as well, and they just do a great job. So they're out there helping with salmon surveys. They do water quality monitoring every few weeks, which is amazing. It's led by our Clean Water Program Director, Anna Bachman, who's amazing with them. And yeah, so it's a couple pictures of them going out on the trail. They are just the best. And to be honest, they know way more than I do about any kind of water quality monitoring. They're amazing. And I think that they're going to make great environmentalists one day. So yeah, and then next we have I want to talk about some of our priorities. A lot of these things we do every year, but it's just important for us to share kind of what's on our radar in this upcoming year. We're going to continue to engage with communities around the Sound, continue to doing cleanups, continuing to run our pollution report tip line. Basically, that's a line that you can call when you spot pollution anywhere, something that you're concerned about. It's something that we can go and do our best to either remove debris or handle debris, wrap boats. Obviously, oil leakage happens a lot here, or we can find a resource that can come help that situation. So continue to do that. Of course, continue to act in court and in Olympia for clean water, continuing to hold polluters responsible. And of course, hold our government accountable for pollution prevention and environmental justice. And then, of course, continue doing our cleanups, plastic pollution, and restore coastal ecosystems. And of course, we're currently fighting to defend our clean water enforcement work in the U.S. Supreme Court right now. It's a very, I don't have a great update for you today, but I think things are looking good for us, which is great. Of course, we have a lot of great support around us, and we are celebrating 41 years. We've been doing this. This is something we are used to, very tricky, but yeah, so that's something we're kind of just going to continue to do this 2025th year. And yeah, of course, we've been holding cleanups for 40 years. We're one of the oldest waterfront community and clean water focused NGOs in the Puget Sound. And we're going to continue to do that work. And of course, continue. And then right now we're currently fighting in Olympia for a sewage right to know law and recycling reform. I do believe the recycling reform may have died, but we are, of course, we want to know what's in the sewage that's being pumped into Puget Sound, dumped into Puget Sound. I think that's like really big. We need to be transparent about that. Of course, we want people to be able to go swim out in the water. We want our wildlife to be safe. So that's a little bit of what we're working on currently. And of course, just a way to get involved, any ways to get involved. There's a number of ways. Of course, you can come out and volunteer with us. PugetSoundkeeper.org is our website. We have an events page there. You're more than welcome to sign up for multiple cleanups. We always need volunteers. We have a huge list of events happening this year. Would love to see you guys out there. Of course, you can get community service points through this, etc. So and then of course you can sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a great way to stay in touch with our work. It's also a great way to get action alerts. So when we are working on passing specific bills, or there's something we really want to share with you about, like our legal program or advocacy, we can always send those action alerts out. And then of course any events and volunteer events that come up, we'll let you know. Another great way is to become a member. Our members are people that either donate 4 hours of their time per year or donate a minimum of $20 a year. And membership is really important because members can act as standing witnesses in our cases. So if there is a legal case happening in your area, maybe something that you pointed us towards that we may have not seen, you can act as a standing witness in that case as a member of ours. So it has a lot of benefits to it, really. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to leave the rest for some questions. I was like, I'm trying to go talk as fast as
Oh my
I can.
gosh, Stephanie, that was amazing. And I have to tell y'all, if you ever have a chance to do these cleanups, do them. They're not all just in canoes. Like there's a lot of shoreline cleanup. I've done shoreline cleanup. I've done trail cleanup. It is so fun, y'all. I mean, it's gross because people are pigs and leave their garbage everywhere, but it's really fulfilling and you see the immediate impact and you get to be part of a community that's having really that immediate impact, which feels so good. We had a couple of questions in the chat and I'm going to kind of run them together because I think they're good questions. How do the tires get in the water? And then how do you get the tires and other things out? Do you use scuba divers? Like what's the process? Tell us more.
Absolutely. Yes. So to be honest, sadly, a bunch of tires are actually just dumped. So people that just don't want to be responsible for getting rid of their own debris. We find that a lot of businesses oftentimes dump tires from their transportation vehicles. So definitely we do a lot of our legal cases on the Duwamish. These are definitely things, of course, we try to get to the root of. We try to find out who's dumping these tires, how to better kind of figure that out as well so that we can take legal action. And yes, we do, in order to find tires, yes, we use scuba divers. And then we also have a really awesome ROV that we were, as part of our grant for the SALT program last year. It's an underwater ROV. It's basically this really high-tech camera. So we're able to dive down with it, take videos, and it's also going to be great for our legal cases as well. But yeah, we're able to locate where all these tires are and obviously other big debris. We found fridges last year. It's crazy. Yeah, a lot of things get dumped down there.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. We have somebody who is saying that this is a terrific. Oh, can certified divers volunteer with you?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, I mean, we definitely, so every summer we actually do a dive cleanup. We partner with Seattle Dive Tours. And oh yeah, definitely anytime that, I'm sure there's something we could coordinate. Let me put my email here too. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I can get you in contact with Anna, our clean water program manager. And I'm sure she can set you up with one of our underwater cleanups. We definitely need divers for Duwamish as well. So that'd be great. Yeah. It's a great question.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions for Puget Soundkeeper? You can take yourself off mute or you can drop your question in the chat. As we wait and see if anything else comes in, I just want to thank these three organizations for being here today, for sharing your work, for sharing your missions and your visions of a better Puget Sound for all of us. And I love that there are so many volunteer opportunities and ways we can get involved to impact our community. And also thank you for sharing some of your vulnerabilities around federal funding. We are all living in that space and it is really heartening to see that you're not giving up, because we're not giving up either. And so I appreciate the time that you brought today and the information you shared. Yeah, their work does make me feel, yes, exactly, Amy. So you can all see this. Your work makes me feel optimistic about the state of the world. Just what I needed today. Keep up the good work. That, I think, in a nutshell, is what this work is about. If any of you who work with UW are feeling inspired to give, you can give through the combined fund drive to these organizations. I dropped their charity codes in the chat, as well as a link for you to make a gift. You can also give to them directly. You can do both. I encourage you to volunteer. If any of you are interested in putting together larger volunteer opportunities for your work groups, let me know. I'm happy to work with any of the organizations to see what we can do. They are all doing vital work in our community and our world. And I just loved hearing about all the ways that you are changing the world for the better. So with that, if nobody has any questions, I think I will join everyone else in saying thank you for being amazing and inspiring, and let everybody go a minute early. Enjoy your found minute. Thanks, everyone. And y'all, please feel free, nonprofits, to drop your emails in the chat if you're willing to have folks reach out to you. folks who are attending from UW, if you have any questions about contacting these people, please feel free to reach out to me directly or to the team at the Whole U, and we'll help you connect.